Hello, Plano. It's so exciting to be here today, and I am a longtime Plano resident, so just thankful for everybody who is here. Have you ever had an idea or some little thought that came to you in a quiet time or a moment in your life, and it actually changed the trajectory of your whole life? Well, today I just want to talk to you a little bit about that. I want to share that, a lot of people have ideas and they have thoughts and there's three things that happen, right? We have the people who have those and they take them and they share them with others and they grow these ideas and they create a project out of it and it turns into a movement of some kind. Then we have the other people who are like, oh, that's a good idea. I think I'm going to think about it. Maybe I'll do that. Or they have the little devil sitting on their shoulder going, there's no way you can do that. It's impossible. Forget about it. And what do? They don't do it. And then there's the third person who's never heard the whisper, right? They didn't ever listen. They are too busy doing life that they haven't had that quiet moment where they were inspired in some way. Well, in my life, I had one of those times happen to me, and I want to share it with you today. I get my inspiration mostly from God. I follow His commands and I try to listen because I know that He has purposes in my life for me. And one of those happened to me with an organization that founded in Plano, and I'm super proud of that, in 2001 called Young Men's Service League. And in Young Men's Service League, it happened out of just a small seed of an idea. And so many, many years ago, when I was in my early 40s, I had 4 kids. I was driving the Suburban with my, hair blown back, going to all the games and the practices and, doing everything we do to make sure our kids turn out to be the very best that they can do. And one day I went to a lunch with some friends and we were talking about our high school girls that were doing National Charity League and how important that was in the development of their hearts for compassion. And we were like, we had high school boys coming online and next year was going to be in 9th grade and there is nothing in the world that was set up for them to do, to volunteer like that, and to be able to, learn from people who have situations that are different than theirs. And we got into a deeper discussion, and we said, how awesome would it be if we could find something where we can expose these young men now at these influential times in their life that would impact them and how they led and how they were fathers in the future? And then what about also the fact that when they're teens, right, their natural proclivity is to go away from mom and dad. So especially from mom. And those who are moms here in the room know this, right? By the time they get into 10th grade, we say they suffer from the fumes and the perfumes, right? They don't want to spend time with mom. They want to spend time with their friends, and they definitely want to chase those perfumes. And so what if we combine the act of giving to others in our community with the ability to spend time with their mom, having a different dialogue than what they have, get your homework done, hurry up, get to practice, do these things, but instead we call it the drive home, where they can come in and you can talk to them and share about the community that you just served and have a very deeper understanding of those in need. I think a lot of our kids grow up in a protected view of what life is, and so we got together as a group and said, hey, let's go after this and let's try to find this. And so we started in a chapter in Plano, and we had to go beg philanthropies to let us go serve them. Please let us serve you, please. We promise we're going to show up. And eventually they trusted us, and we built this organization. And it started out very small, 60 moms, 60 boys. And about 2 years in, I was having one of these work nights where I started my work night for YMSL at 10 at night because that was the only time it was quiet in my life because the rest of it was chaotic. And I was sitting there, and you have to understand a little bit about me. I was a stay-at-home mom. I never worked a corporate job. I sold a little bit of real estate. I had never guided a leadership team in my life. I had no entrepreneurial thoughts in my brain. And I was starting this organization. And I was sitting there, and this thought came to me, and it said, kind of like Field of Dreams, right? Build it, and they will come. And instead it was, build it, and they will serve. And take this idea and grow it across the nation. And I woke up the next day, and I was like, I know now my purpose. My purpose is to build this organization and grow it so that we can touch lives and help people solve their needs and impact our young men in their hearts and in their futures. And I took that as my purpose, and I went forward with it. And from there, we started growing and expanding. We went into new states, and today we're a massive nonprofit organization across the United States, all from answering that yes question, will you step up and lead this? And so that leads me into my second kind of whisper that has impacted my life, and that is also involving my young men's organization. And about, 5 or 6 years into it, we had 6 or 7 chapters going. We were growing and, moving along, doing great things. And somebody handed me a book, one of my philanthropy partners, and said, hey, I'd like you to read this. And it's called The Ultimate Gift by Jim Stovall. If you haven't read it, it's a great book. They have it in a movie form. And I read this book, and it was about a young man who inherited a lot of money, but to get the money, he had to go through 12 months of different things that he learned how to give to others in his community. And I got off that airplane, and again, it came to me, you need to take this concept and bring it into Young Men's Service League and impact communities with it. So sure enough, we go to the board, we start creating an Ultimate Gift project. We did our first one with City House here in Plano, and we did a massive cleanup project for their facility there, and it grew and grew and grew, and we started doing more and more Ultimate Gifts, and we thought we were doing so great. And so probably, 6, 7 years into it, I had brought on a new person on my team, and she said, I interviewed these boys, and I asked them, what were you doing for the Ultimate Gift last year? And they said, well, we built a fence, we created a shelter, we did all of these, projects that they did. And she said, well, why? And they went, I don't know, they're teenage boys, they don't talk a whole lot, right? And so we realized that we had a shortfall in our organization from that conversation. And what we learned is, instead of just being about showing up for the service, we also had to teach them who and why they are serving for that service. So we integrated a whole new program into it where we go in and we educate them in a reveal for the meeting before they do their project. And one of the ones we did this year, which was amazing, was we had 100 boys and 100 moms do a sleep-in on a gym floor to learn what it felt like to sleep in bedlessness, because we serve a lot of people in bedlessness in our communities, and we wanted them to understand what that really felt like and why it's important to provide those beds to people. Very impactful on the young man, because now he gets it, because his hips hurt, he didn't sleep very well, he didn't do great in school the next day, and he's like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing that people actually have to live like this. How can we fix this? So when he goes to do that project, wow, it's a whole different thing. It changed the young man. And so that pivotal moment in our organization really changed the future of how we drove Young Men's Service League. We had a deficit that we didn't even know about, because we had left out that element of knowing who they serve and why we are serving them. So, it's another small little idea that could grow into something big. The other thing that I wanted to share with you, and some whispers aren't those that are they're going to impact your life in those ways, in a corporation or in your job or your career. The third one I had is more personal. And it came to me, I was helping my youngest son, my other kids had gone off to college, and he had a friend who didn't have lunch money, and he said, Mom, can I give him some lunch money? I'll put it in his account. I was like, okay, let's do that. Tell me a little bit about him. He goes, I don't know a whole lot, I just know that he's struggling. So we helped then go help buy groceries for the weekends and started giving him more support. And I felt really good about that. It was great. I'm still, busy with all my life, not paying much attention to the rest of it with him. And I get a phone call from Special Programs in Plano, which is an amazing, program here that helps kids in trouble and in academic trouble. And they said, hey, this is the principal, and we have Garrett here in the counseling office, and he's not doing so well. We think we're going to lose him. And I was like, lose him? She goes, yeah, I think he's suicidal. He can't continue living as he does. And I was like, okay. And she goes, can you come over? And so I said, okay, I'll go. So I hung up the phone, and I heard that voice again. And I said, go get him. You got to go pick him up. So I was like, okay. I'm driving over to Special Programs. I pick him up. He comes, I really don't know him that well. I said, where do you live? He goes, I live over here in these apartments with a friend, or kind of quasi-friend. He was a sofa surfer. I had learned about those through our work with City House in Plano, and they help homeless teams. So I knew really what his situation was. And we went to his place. He came back out with a black trash bag of his belongings and put it in the car, and we went home and we sat down at my kitchen table. And I'm thinking, I have this boy, he's 6 foot tall, big guy. What am I gonna do? Let's talk it through, let's see what we can do. And my husband comes home for dinner that night, and I said, look who's here for dinner. He's like, who's this? I said, this is Garrett, and this is a friend of Eric's, and he's going to stay with us for a little while. And what I learned is their lives are more complex than what we even can begin to know. And I won't go into the story. I could write a whole nother book about this. But he was able to graduate high school. He got his driver's license. He went into the military. He's now out of the military, and he's serving as an airplane mechanic for military airplanes and doing very well and thriving. And he will tell you to this day, that yes, changed his life, the course of his life forever. And I want to say to you guys, that yes changed our lives as well. It changed my life, it changed my husband's life, it changed my kids' life. And we had to give, we had to sacrifice. We went through some pain. It wasn't like the movie story that you see with a happy ending, but it was worth it, right? And I think that everyone will agree it really turned out to be a blessing in our life. So what I want to share those stories with you for is I want you to think about, how you could turn your small whisper into something amazing. And so when you think about the yes that was said for Young Men's Service League, it has grown into a national organization with 200 chapters. We have 31,000 moms involved in it, and we are doing about 750,000 hours a year of community service, and we do 2,000 hours a day of community service from just the one yes, let's go do this. And so what would happen if you could take your idea right now of that small whisper that you've had, that thought that you've had, or you saw a need somewhere that could be met, and you think you're the person who's not sure whether to take action, or you are the one that's had the naysayer going, no, you can't do it, it's too hard, it takes too much time, all of those negative things that come to you. What would it look like if you were able to do that yourself? So I want to give you a couple tips on how to take that from what you see today or think about today and move it into something actionable. So the very first thing is you have to say yes. You can't just let it ride. You got to step up. You got to step forward and say, I'm going to do it. I'm going to take that idea and move forward with it. And it could be for something philanthropic. It could be for a business. It could be all kinds of things. And then I want you to think about building your team from there, because the way that you bring this idea to life is to share your passion and your dream and your fire that you have inside of you and let other people catch it. And so I think I refer to a guy in our community named Bob Bodine who wrote a book called The Power of Who. And he talks about in the book surrounding yourself with 5 or 7 people who are your core group, that all through your life, when you have an idea, you seek them first and you share it and you build it and you figure out where they can take you and who they can connect you to, and then you can blossom the idea. And so you take that and then you start sharing the passion. And when you do that, people catch it. And this is what's happened with my organization. I now have over 130 people on our team, and they all have such enthusiasm and love for the organization because they've caught the fire of the passion of the organization and its purpose. And so you start sharing that, and then it just blossoms and grows, and it turns into something wonderful. But you got to start small. You can't start. You're not going to, build Rome in a day, right? So you're going to start with small goals and build it from there. And then I think the next thing is to remember that you need to be a leader. You need to provide that leadership for those people, because everybody will come, but they still need somebody to say, yes, we're going to go take, we can do it, they need a cheerleader. And in learning how to lead like that, because I didn't have that experience, I didn't work in corporate America, a couple things I've found is you need to say yes more than no. You need to listen to people, and your first thing, they're going to come to an idea, and it's going to bristle your hair on the back of your neck, and you're like, nah, no, we can't do that. And then you got to let that die down, and then you got to listen, because 9 times out of 10, they have a different skill set than you do that they can take forward and make you better. And then you also, I think the most valuable thing that I've learned in 24 years of running Young Men's Service League is that humility is king. If you can be a humble leader, and you will go much further. And it took me a while to learn that. I can say in my 40s, maybe I didn't have it in the 50s. You know, we won't talk about how old I am. But I think that once I learned that I could admit mistakes, I can say that was the wrong decision, I can say you were right and I was wrong, and I can listen to them and let them have their moment in time and take their dream of their own and grow it, everything gets better. So we don't have to be these overbearing, do it my way or the highway. I think that humility really comes in a long way to play in how we can lead. And then I just want to say that you also still have to retain that role of being visionary. You still have to be the one that is the most on fire. You have to be the one that says, yes, we're going to try that. I know it sounds impossible, but we're going to go try that. We're going to do that this next year. We want to build 500 or 5,000 beds across America for our 25th anniversary. And I'm saying to my team, we're going to go do that. And they're like, oh, how? I was like, we'll figure it out. We're going to do it. Or you need to give them new technology or new challenges or new systems. You have to always be innovating and staying one step ahead of the comfort zone of everybody that you're working with. And so I want to end that today and challenge you guys. I want you to think about those thoughts that you have or you might have, kind of put in the back of your mind or put on your phone or whatever when you leave here today. And think about what you would want to do with it. And will you be the person who will accept that and the ability to create a legacy? Think of the legacy that's been created by the One Yes for Young Men's Service League. Will you help step forward and create a legacy? Or will you be the person who puts it on the back burner and then the dream never comes true? Thank you very much.